What if the best decision of my life cost me everything I've ever built? That question haunted Ethan Walker as he stood in the hallway of his once silent mansion, listening to the muffled sounds of two infants breathing softly in their cribs and a little girl humming to herself behind the door. Just weeks ago, his world was spreadsheets, skyscrapers, and stock returns. Now he was trading million-dollar contracts for midnight diaper changes, and he didn't know if he was saving a family or destroying his future. His board was threatening to fire him. Investors were pulling out, and tomorrow a judge would ask him to choose: walk away from the children who had somehow become his entire world, or sign the papers and make them his forever. But what kind of man gives up power for lullabies? What kind of man gives up everything for love? Stay with us, because what happens next will break your heart and then heal it in ways you never expected. The city of Philadelphia hadn't slept in days. Or at least that's how it felt to Ethan Walker, who stood near the edge of Broad Street, staring at the towering glass buildings that he had once dreamed of owning. His phone buzzed with relentless urgency, a reminder that his empire, his billion-dollar construction deal, was hanging by a thread. He needed to clear his head. Contracts were falling apart, permits were delayed, and his Brazilian investors were threatening to pull out of the $50 million project if he didn't sign that afternoon. He had built his fortune from nothing, clawing his way through college and corporate rejection, but now success was suffocating him. Ethan left his driver waiting and wandered down the sidewalk alone, loosening his tie. The weight in his chest felt heavier than any skyscraper he had ever designed. That's when he saw her. At first, it looked like a bundle of clothes on the sidewalk slumped near the steps of a closed bank. But as he approached, he froze. It was a girl, maybe 10 or 11, barefoot, pale, with tangled hair and sunken cheeks. She cradled two infants, barely toddlers, bundled in what looked like ripped blankets. And then she collapsed, right in front of him. "Hey, Miss." Ethan dropped to one knee, heart pounding. "Can you hear me?" One of the babies let out a sharp, piercing cry. The other lay frighteningly still, his tiny face flushed red. He didn't think. He just moved. In one sweeping motion, Ethan scooped the girl and the babies into his arms and flagged down a passing rideshare. St. Mary's Hospital. Now. The driver didn't ask questions. Inside the ER, the triage nurse raised an eyebrow. "Are you the father?" Ethan hesitated. The question bounced around in his head, tangled in panic and adrenaline. He looked down at the unconscious girl whose head rested against his chest, and the infant's one now wheezing with each shallow breath. "I'm their guardian," he said. The nurse frowned. "We'll need identification. Papers." "Run the tests first," Ethan snapped. "They don't have time for forms." As they wheeled the babies away, he followed the nurse through the sliding doors of chaos. The hospital smelled like bleach and urgency. Lucas, the twin with the fever, was rushed into pediatric emergency while Noah was taken to be stabilized. The girl Lily was laid on a stretcher, and IV slid into her arm. Ethan paced. Then his phone rang. It was Clara, his executive assistant. Her voice was tight. "Ethan, the Brazilians are on the call. They say if you don't sign the deal within the next 30 minutes, they're pulling out. That's the whole South Tower. Gone." He turned to look through the glass, where nurses were swarming around a baby he didn't even know an hour ago. 30 minutes. $50 million. "Tell them I'm in a medical emergency," he said. "Buy me an hour," Ethan told them. He hung up. A security guard approached him moments later, flanked by a social worker. "Sir," she said, "we've been told there's a custody issue. We need to verify who you are." Before he could answer, there was a sudden voice from the hallway. Weak, shaky. "He didn't take us." "I asked him for help." Lily had woken up. She was holding onto the frame of the doorway, eyes bloodshot, lips cracked, but her voice, it was sharp, sincere. "He found me. I fainted. Please don't take my brothers away." The social worker looked between them, and for a second, Ethan saw it, the doubt, the suspicion. Then she softened. "We still need basic information." He sat with Lily as she whispered her story, how her mother had died in an abandoned warehouse, how she'd promised never to let her brothers be separated, how they'd been hiding from child services for weeks. Ethan listened, not just with his ears, but with something deeper. something that had been asleep inside him for years. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lily Carter," she said. "They're Lucas and Noah. They're my brothers." She leaned in. "Please don't let them take us away." For a moment, Ethan wanted to run. He wasn't built for this. His life was carefully measured spreadsheets and high-rise timelines, not crying babies and broken promises. But then he saw her hands blistered and small, gripping the edge of the hospital bed, like it was the last bit of solid ground. "I won't," he said quietly. "I'll stay." Lucas was diagnosed with severe dehydration and a respiratory infection. The doctor, Dr. Collins, said they'd gotten him in just in time. Another day and he might not have survived. Mr. Walker said Julia Bennett, the social worker, returning with a clipboard. "If you're serious about being their temporary guardian, I'll need your signature. You'll be responsible for all medical and legal decisions." He stared at the line where he had to sign. This wasn't just about staying for the night. It was a door. Once he stepped through, he wouldn't come back the same man. He looked at Lily curled up next to Noah, watching him with eyes that had seen far too much. He signed. The weight of a skyscraper lifted from his chest and was replaced with something scarier yet warmer. Connection. That night, while Lucas was treated and Lily was given food and a blanket, Ethan sat alone in the hallway, phone in hand. $50 million lost. His board of directors would tear him apart. But for the first time in his life, he didn't care. In the stillness of that hospital corridor, he had found something he didn't know he was missing. Not success, not money, meaning. And it had come wrapped in blankets in quiet desperation. What happens next? What would you have done in Ethan's place? Risked everything for 3 strangers or walked away? Let us know in the comments, and if this story touched your heart, drop a heart for Lily and her brothers. Ethan had always believed his life was difficult to derail. He built it like one of his skyscrapers, steel glass and airtight contracts. But that belief crumbled the moment he brought Lily, Lucas, and Noah into his home. His mansion in Chestnut Hill, once pristine and sterile, now echoed with cries, coughs, and lullabies. It no longer smelled like polished wood and imported espresso. It smelled like baby formula and uncertainty. And somehow that terrified him more than any hostile takeover ever had. Lucas remained in the hospital for 2 more days while Ethan and Lily returned to the house with Noah. For the first time in a decade, Ethan skipped his morning board briefings, his real estate site visits, his personal trainer, and his tailored meetings. He traded power suits for stained t-shirts and his Italian leather shoes for socked feet, padding down hallways at 2 a.m. He hadn't expected Lily to be the adult in the room. She moved around the house with quiet precision, rocking Noah gently when he cried, warming bottles with one hand while folding tiny onesies with the other. Ethan watched in stunned silence as she did what many grown-ups couldn't. She didn't complain. Not once. That evening, after Lucas had stabilized, the doctors agreed to let him come home under close monitoring. Ethan stood in the pediatric unit, holding a discharge folder and watching as Lily packed the diaper bag like a soldier preparing for battle. When they got back home, he really tried to help. He attempted to change Lucas's diaper and ended up needing a full outfit change himself. He poured too much formula. He held the bottle at the wrong angle. Lily didn't laugh. She didn't scold him either. She simply took over, showing him how to cradle the baby's head just right. That night, after everyone was finally asleep, Ethan collapsed onto the couch. His body ached from muscles he never used, and his inbox had over 400 unread emails. His assistant had left 5 voicemails. But what gnawed at him most was a letter on the marble kitchen counter. It was from the Walker Group Board of Directors, stamped urgent. Inside was a warning: if he didn't return to work and resume control of his company, they would vote to replace him as CEO. He stared at the words like they were in a foreign language. Replace him, he was the company. He folded the letter, pushed it under a stack of mail, and walked upstairs. At 3:17 a.m., he woke to a scream. Ethan ran into the nursery barefoot. Noah was burning up. Lily was already there, rocking him frantically. "I gave him the medicine," she whispered. "It's not working. What if he's like Lucas? What if we're too late this time?" Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed the diaper bag, threw on a hoodie, and lifted Noah into his arms. They didn't wait for the driver. Ethan drove himself, ignoring red lights, heart hammering louder than the baby's cries. His hands trembled on the steering wheel. "Stay with me, buddy," he whispered. "Please stay with me." At St. Mary's, the same pediatric nurse looked up in surprise. Again, she asked. No judgment, just concern. The doctor ran tests. After an hour that felt like 10, he returned with news. It's a mild viral infection, nothing like Lucas had. You caught it early. He'll be fine with medication and rest. Relief made Ethan weak. He sat down and covered his face with both hands. Lily placed her small hand on his shoulder. You stayed, she said quietly, even when you didn't have to. Back home in the faint gray of dawn, Lily prepared Noah's medicine. She measured the dosage with steady hands, then looked up at Ethan. You don't have to do all this, she said. You've already done more than anyone. Ethan leaned against the wall watching her. Why does that sound like you're preparing to leave? Lily didn't respond right away. She twisted the cap back onto the bottle. I overheard a voicemail from your company, she admitted. They're mad at you. I don't want to ruin your life. You're not ruining anything, he said. Your company can wait. Lily finally looked up at him. Her eyes, wide and tired, seemed far older than her 11 years. Promise me, she said. Promise you won't let them take us away. I can handle anything, except being separated from them. Ethan knelt in front of her. I promise I'll do everything I can to keep you together. But even as he said it, the weight of that promise landed on his shoulders like concrete, because he knew he couldn't guarantee it. Not unless he went further. Not unless he became more than a temporary guardian. Not unless he became a father. The idea terrified him. How do you parent when you've never been parented yourself? How do you raise children when your only focus for years has been stock margins and square footage? Later that week, as the house settled into its new chaos, Ethan received a visit from Julia Bennett, the social worker. She walked through the home, asked questions, took notes. Lily offered her a cup of tea. Julia accepted. When she left, she turned to Ethan and said, They're doing better here than I've seen in any placement all year. Placement, Ethan echoed. Julia raised an eyebrow. Mr. Walker, if you want to continue this arrangement long-term, you'll need to apply for permanent custody, or else the court will begin the process of assigning them to state care. That night, Ethan didn't sleep. He stood in the hallway looking into the nursery. Lucas and Noah were asleep in their cribs. Lily had left the door cracked, a habit she picked up to hear if either boy stirred. He leaned against the wall, phone in hand. Clara had left another message. Ethan, the Brazil deal is hanging by a thread. I need you back in the office. Just one more week or we lose the entire project. He scrolled through her email, eyes catching the subject line, final offer, sign or withdraw. It was everything he'd worked for. But when he looked back into that room, saw Lily curled up on the floor near the cribs, a book fallen beside her, and the babies breathing in rhythm, he realized the life he thought he wanted had already changed. Now he had something to lose that mattered more than towers of glass and steel. So the question remained, what would he risk to keep it? What do you think Ethan should do next? Sign the deal and save his company, or risk everything to keep this fragile new family together? Let us know in the comments, and if this moment moved, you send a little heart to Lily, Lucas, and Noah. The days that followed were a blur of messy diapers, formula runs, storybooks, and laughter. Somewhere between late-night fevers and Lily's cautious smiles, Ethan Walker forgot what silence used to sound like. His house was no longer quiet, and for the first time he didn't miss the calm. The chaos had given him something he never knew he needed. But time has a way of demanding decisions. 3 weeks after Julia Bennett's visit, Ethan received an official notice. A court date had been scheduled to determine the future of Lily, Lucas, and Noah. The temporary guardianship would expire, and unless he took legal steps, the children could be placed into foster care separately. He held the envelope in his hand for hours before opening it. 2 paths, 1 choice. On his desk sat 2 stacks of paper. On the left, the custody application forms along with Lily's school registration, the boys' medical records, and a parenting class schedule. On the right, a contract from his company's legal team, an offer to return as full-time CEO, lead the Brazil project, and restore the company's fading grip on the market. He could either become a father or become the man he used to be. The company promised him his old life back, private jets, executive power, the freedom to walk away from crying babies and long nights. But when he looked at Lily's drawing pinned to the fridge, 4 stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun, labeled My Family, the pen in his hand refused to move. Later that night, he found Lily sitting on the floor of the nursery, reading to Lucas and Noah. She looked up when she saw him. "Are you gonna leave?" she asked. No preamble, no fear, just quiet expectation, like someone who had already rehearsed the answer in her head 100 times. He sat down beside her. "I don't want to," he said honestly. "You used to live alone. You were happy. I was alone. That doesn't mean I was happy." Lily hesitated, biting her lip. "If they take us away, can you at least promise they won't split up my brothers?" He reached out and touched her shoulder. "They won't. I'll fight that with everything I have." The morning of the hearing, Ethan dressed carefully, not in a tailored suit, but in something Lily had helped him pick, a simple blue button-down, the same color Lucas once grabbed and refused to let go of in the store. At court, the room was cold and formal. The judge, Patricia Reston, had a reputation for being sharp and no nonsense. Ethan stood with Lily beside him, her small hand tucked into his. The boys had stayed home with Mrs. Jenkins, their now deeply attached caretaker. Judge Reston looked up from the papers. "Mr. Walker, I understand you had no prior connection to these children. Can you explain to the court what brought you here?" Ethan cleared his throat. His voice, usually so sure in boardrooms, shook. "I found them by accident. Or maybe it wasn't an accident. Lily fainted on the street with the twins in her arms. Something in me, I don't know, I just couldn't walk away." "And why are you requesting permanent custody?" the judge asked. "Because walking away isn't an option anymore. They're not just children I helped. They're my family now. I need them just as much as they need me." Judge Reston turned to Lily. "Miss Carter, do you understand what this hearing is about?" Lily nodded. "You're deciding if he can be our real dad." "And what do you think?" Lily looked up at Ethan. "When my mom died," she said softly, "I promised I'd never let anyone separate us, but I couldn't do it alone. Mr. Walker didn't just keep us together, he made us feel safe. He sings lullabies that sound awful, and he burns pancakes, and he still doesn't know how to braid hair. But he never gave up on us. That's what a real dad is." The room fell silent. Judge Reston nodded and made a note in her file. Then she looked at Ethan. "This decision is permanent. These children will be yours in every legal and moral sense. Are you ready for that responsibility?" Ethan smiled. "I've already been living it." After a moment, the judge placed her pen down. "Then it is the decision of this court to grant full and permanent custody of Lily Lucas and Noah Carter to Mr. Ethan Walker." Lily exhaled sharply. Ethan turned to her just as she burst into tears and threw her arms around his waist. He held her tightly, burying his face in her hair, feeling the weight of months of doubt finally fall away. Outside the courthouse, the sun was bright and Lily tugged on his sleeve. "So, can we get ice cream now, or is that only for real families?" He laughed. "We're real. Messy, noisy, and totally real." Later that night back home, he walked into the nursery. The boys were asleep. Lily was sitting in the hallway scribbling in her notebook. "Hey," she whispered, "want to hear something?" "Sure." She cleared her throat. "You used to be a man with everything but nothing. Now you're a dad with less money, but way more love. The end." Ethan blinked. "You wrote that?" She grinned. "We had to write about heroes at school." That night, Ethan stood in the doorway of his own room, staring at the framed photo on his dresser. 4 of them side by side in the park, ice cream dripping down their hands, smiles bright and real. A picture he used to think didn't belong in his world. Now he couldn't imagine his world without it. And he finally understood success wasn't about what you earned. It was about who you came home to. If you had been in Ethan's shoes, would you have signed the contract or the adoption papers? What do you think defines a real parent, biology or love? Did this story move you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment number 3 if you loved it, number 2 if it felt okay, or number 1 if it didn't land for you. And let us know, what country are you watching from? If this story touched your heart, please, drop a heart and share it with someone who believes that family is made by choice, not just by blood. We'll see you in the next heartwarming story.